Welcome in for another episode of Phone It In right here on So Pros Network. Mine's right, ass is tight as we tackle episode 44 for you today. We're getting closer and closer to episode 50, and we still don't know what we're going to do for the special 50 episode mark. Nonetheless, that's a different conversation for a different day. I am your host for the show, the EIC at SoBrosNetwork.com, Big Natural Stoney Keeley. You can follow me on Twitter at Stoney Keeley. Follow us collectively at SoBros Network on all major social media platforms. And of course, we've got the star of the show herself with us today. She is the cryptid queen herself, Rooster. Rooster, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday afternoon?
I feel like I'm going to throw up.
You do? Why? Is it because we're live streaming for the first time?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing, listen, we just can't have like long, awkward pauses like we do sometimes when we're both trying to fact check something that I probably said that we don't know. And, you know, if we've got to stop and take a leak, we can't get out of that. Can't edit that out. I mean, I guess I could. If I had to go pee, you could just entertain the audience while I'm doing my business, and then we.
I gotta be careful not to be blowing my nose, I guess.
Yeah. So this is our first live broadcast, but I kind of feel like this has been a staple of So Bros Network for a long time. Outside of last month, when like one person went in and downloaded 100 episodes of the VixFlix podcast. This has pretty regularly been number 2 on the So Bros charts since its launch in 2019. So I thought, you know what? Skype sucks. We've been having a lot of issues recording through Skype. We got to move to a different platform anyway. Let's just do this thing live. It's the way of the future. I got you on board, and here we are. So with that said, we've got a great show planned for you guys today. If you have any thoughts in the comments, you're watching this live with us, just hop on in. We'll get to them as we can. And if you're listening in podcast form, well, you know what? Nothing's really going to change in that medium. So, good show on deck today. We are going to be talking about, well, I guess we got to square this away first. I should have done this. See, this is one of those cases where we would kind of pause, edit some of this out, and come back to it later, but we can't.
It's too late now.
Yeah. Is it Appalachian or Appalachian?
Well, I think technically the southern way to say it is Appalachian.
Okay, yeah, because I've always said Appalachian, but I'm watching 2 football players that I want the Titans to pick this week in the NFL draft that play for Appalachian State, and the announcers keep calling it Appalachian State, and I'm just like, oh man, have I completely fucked this up? And I think I did.
I used to say Appalachian.
Yeah?
Yeah, and then I realized that I think like more northern, they agreed to say it that way, and then like southern was supposed to be Appalachian. So I decided to go the southern route.
So it's one of those cases where like maybe everybody's right.
Yeah, I mean, people can't really agree on it, so.
Yeah. Well, that's that happens from time to time in this country. People can't really agree on things. Nonetheless, we got a little bit of history. We got a little bit of geology. We got a little bit of folklore. I think we are going to dig into some creepy shit at the end of this episode, and I'm looking forward to it. So, hey, why don't we just get this thing started then? How did you land on this topic for this month's episode?
It came up in the last episode, and I don't remember really how. It was just like, oh, let's do one on the Appalachian Mountains.
I don't. Yeah, how did
you don't
it
remember
come
that?
up?
See,
Because,
this is what I'm saying. You always ask me, like, what made you decide on this? I'm like, I cannot remember.
The last episode that we did was the Daedalus Sea Beast. So I don't know how we would get Appalachian Mountains out of a sea serpent, but here we are. Cryptids, maybe? I don't know. We were talking about creepy shit happening.
Yeah, maybe it was that. Maybe it was creepy stuff happening.
Have we done?
Oh, we talked about, and you mentioned like some stuff that you had seen, and I mentioned one weird thing that happened when I was hiking the Appalachian Trail. So maybe that's where it came from.
Is that the story where you passed the person looking up at the sky? Wait, no, that was a Reddit story.
Yes.
That was our annual.
Yeah, that
Reddit
was like
episode.
a Halloween story. I was like, oh God, that was not my story. Jesus Christ. No.
Well, the
No, that
point
was the one
is,
where I just like heard a weird sound when we were hiking, when I was hiking on the trail.
yeah. I mean, the point is that we're here now, and I think this is going to be a pretty comprehensive episode. So why don't we let's start with the intro here. What you have prepped for everybody about the Appalachian Mountains.
So they're very old. That's it.
All right.
They're not the oldest
Thank you
mountains,
guys for
though.
tuning in.
They're not the oldest mountains. The oldest mountains are in Africa, but I thought it was cool that like younger mountains are taller. So like the Himalayas are
That
like the
was
youngest.
definitely you learned something new when I was going through the show agenda there. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, so older mountains are more rounded and gentle because they've had more time to erode.
So they're
So
crumbly. They're a little more
yeah,
crumbly and not as perky as
that's yep. I mean, we
younger
all
mountains.
age, we all go through that.
Yeah,
We all know. But like geologists believe that there must have been a peak of the Appalachian Mountains up north, I think is where they thought it was. Uh, that used to be as tall as the Himalayas.
that's nuts.
Or taller even, I don't know, but I mean, how do you can't really judge that kind of thing anymore, so I don't know.
Yeah. How would that stack up with the highest mountain peaks in the world? Is Mount Everest number one, or am I just making that up
I
because
think
everybody?
so. No, I
Yeah.
think it is. Yeah.
Okay. Because that would be pretty interesting if we had. Well, you're up in Michigan. I'm in Nashville. But if we had like the tallest mountain in the world, like 3 or 4 hours away from me,
Mhm. Well, yeah,
and I
at
could
some
travel
point.
back in time millions of years too.
Right.
That part, yeah.
Yeah. That would be cool to know though, like what the highest peak ever to have existed
Yeah.
was. That'd be interesting. Also fun, the Appalachian Mountains are literally older than trees, like the existence of trees, the first trees.
Okay. Well, I've got a question about that. I wrote this down in my notes.
Okay.
Who was around to document the first trees? How do we know who was there first?
This is something where we would fact check, like how geologists know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was just supposed to be a joke. We don't have to actually look that
Mhm.
up. I mean, we can just
Right.
trust science on this show, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there are paleo botanists who would know that kind of shit.
Yeah, the people that study dinosaurs. Got it.
Well, plants, the plants that existed
Oh,
with dinosaurs, like the woman, whatever her name was from Jurassic Park. I don't know, remember either of their names, but she was a
I don't
paleo.
either.
She was a
Yeah.
paleobotanist.
Okay. All right. What do you think the first tree looked like?
Probably like an ugly ass palm tree.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, it just kind of looks like a sprout. It's like
Like
a
a real ugly, real basic.
nose hair sticking out
You
kind of
gotta
deal.
start somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Um
350 million years ago, if
y-
to call back to our Dodge City episode, if you could travel back in
oh
time
God.
350 million years ago, would you do it? I think they just made an Adam Driver movie about that.
I would. I would go there before I'd go to Dodge City, to be
Really?
completely honest with you. Yes.
I'm still romanticizing the American Wild West, even though I'll probably get murdered within 10 minutes of being there. I feel
Right.
like I just don't know what the conditions are going to be like 350 million years ago. Like, what was the temperature of the Earth like? Are you just going to transport back in time and immediately just disintegrate?
Probably nothing that extreme.
Okay.
I do think that, like, there used to be more oxygen. That's why things
Yeah.
were so much bigger. So that would
Oh,
be interesting.
there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to make it.
Get some more oxygen for this dick.
Okay. All right.
Is that like
You
what you're
went
talking
there.
about?
That was what I was going to
I mean,
say. Like, my wife might be happy if I go back in time 350 million years. I'm sure it just works like a pump. You just inhale and it just goes.
Isn't that what those pumps essentially do?
We can go down this rabbit hole if you want to, but
I've never seen one of those in person,
those
but
those pumps essentially engorge the veins in your penis. I'm sorry for whoever just joined this broadcast, by the way. Those pumps essentially engorge the veins in your penis so that more blood can flow through, and as it fills with more blood, it just makes it like a little bit bigger.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So
I love that you just know this.
oh, well, we don't have to get into why I know this, but
Mhm.
I just know this.
But I think I don't know. I think humans are a lot scarier than just whatever crazy
A
trees
single
might be
tree.
going on. Yeah. Like you
But
go back and there's just some dinosaurs and a single tree.
yeah. Well, I was gonna ask, what do you think life was like on Pangea? Is it Pangea? Pangea?
I was gonna ask you.
I think it's Pangea because I've like the
I
fall
think
of
it is.
Pangea. I remember the song on Guitar Hero. Nonetheless,
Mm.
what do you think the state of the earth was like back then? Because it is just a big rock pretty much at that point.
That I don't know. I watched like a little time lapse video that's as in depth as I went on this because as I was trying to like visualize what was happening, I was like, I have to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
It's funny you say that because I wrote in my notes for the show, I'm like, somebody should do a time lapse of all this shit happening over 400 plus million years.
well, there is. I mean, it depends on what exactly you're wanting to see from that
Yeah.
time lapse.
Well,
But
that's what I'm saying is I didn't even fucking look. It's just like, oh, somebody should do
somebody
this.
should do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's.
precisely.
I mean, this is phone it in, so
It is phone it in. That's right.
yeah.
So you've got a note here. I know I jumped the gun on us and got us talking about Pangea and the formation of the Appalachian Mountains, but the first land animals are thought to have appeared 440 million years ago. So you're telling me that there were animals before there were trees? This is madness.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, I mean, they're eating the plants would look totally different. There's probably like bigger shrubs, bigger
Oh, okay.
grasses, you know? It's not like trees are the only plants that exist.
Well, I'm just picturing a giant like meteorite floating through space with a single tree on it.
Just one landmass, one tree.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I'm pretty sure no land it specifies land animals there. I was going to say, are we
Mhm.
counting like the amoeba that splashed upon the shore and sprouted legs or
The amoeba. Just
That's
a
what
tiny little amoeba splashing on shore and getting legs.
it's on land. It's a land animal
Mm,
now.
that's true.
What are we talking about land animals here?
I don't
Dinosaurs?
know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Cool.
I don't know what was first.
Cool. Well, let's talk about the
I think
formation.
humans existed along with dinosaurs too, if you believe in that. Isn't that a religion? Isn't
I was
there
about to say what?
isn't there a big museum up in Kentucky with
Are you thinking of Dino Land?
creationists
I have
believe
no
that
idea.
okay, yeah.
Wait, creationists believe that
Young creationists, I think that's what they're called.
is that a band that
I wish
believes
it were. It might be.
what they
Um,
believe that humans did not exist in the time of dinosaurs, or they believe
they
that
think that
dinosaurs didn't exist altogether?
I think they think that dinosaurs weren't like the history of the earth is not that old. Dinosaurs were not that long
Mm.
ago. Humans and dinosaurs coexisted, and the devil put the bones of dinosaurs really deep to trick us into thinking that it was all a long time ago.
Why would the devil do that?
I don't
Just for
know.
fun? Just
Yeah,
like
just for fun.
I'm gonna get these guys hundreds of millions of years later. They're gonna laugh their asses off.
Yeah, I'm gonna make these people think that they did not coexist with dinosaurs.
What a prank. What a prank. You got us. You tricked us again, you devil. Um,
Hmm.
well, if there are any young creationists watching this broadcast, feel free to chime in on
Yeah,
this
send us
topic.
a comment, chat.
Yeah. So let's talk Pangea then. How
Okay.
did the Appalachian Mountains form?
Um, so the rocks at the core of the mountains formed more than 1 billion years ago. At that time, all of the continents were joined together in a single supercontinent surrounded by a single ocean. Remnants. What?
I was just gonna say, isn't that kind of weird to picture like one
One.
supercontinent?
Yeah.
Like the Earth pretty much looked like an eyeball back in the day.
Well, that's why I thought it was funny when you said just the one tree, and I said the one landmass with the one tree. Although I guess a tree wouldn't have existed back then.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's really weird, like that we were just like an island, one massive island.
yeah. You could
It's a
drive
bizarre.
everywhere.
Why aren't we
Drive to
still like
Paris?
that?
Well, I feel like some shit's happened in the last billion years.
That would be really cool. I'm sad that we missed out on this.
What we need to do is just drain part of the ocean and build a wall to keep the water out so that people can just drive across it.
We drive. How long do you think it would take to drive?
God, I
Just
don't
on the
know.
spot.
I don't know. I mean, what's a flight to like Ireland? That's like a I have no idea. I'm not going to say something stupid. I could say something stupid. That's like a 30-hour
I
flight.
think it's
I don't know.
I think it's about 8 hours.
So, okay. So, let's do some quick math here. It's a 2-hour flight to Philadelphia from Nashville, which is a 14-hour drive. So then we just need to do 14 times 4 would be 56 hours. I don't know if
I
that's
wouldn't
right.
drive that.
I don't know if that's right at all either. I'm just spitballing here.
Just spitballing facts, though.
All right,
But then,
how do
okay.
we present this to our politicians? We need to
Well, and do we go the other way? Do we go to Japan as well?
yeah, you know
Because
what?
that's even
It,
farther.
it would be pretty simple to just I think they're already building something from Alaska to Russia or something might already exist from Alaska to Russia.
Yeah, isn't it just Sarah Palin's backyard?
That's right. Was that, or
Yeah.
wait, was that an innuendo? Did you just make a joke?
That's what she used to say. I can see Russia from my backyard.
That's right.
Remember?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Nonetheless, I'm going to go down to Mount Juliet town hall and be like, guys, we got to split the ocean, pave it so that we can drive to Ireland. I don't know why I picked Ireland as our destination either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good spot to go.
Yeah. I think it might be closer to go to Africa, if I'm not mistaken, from South America. I don't know how we got here.
This is a hell of a road trip.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that time, all of the continents were joined together in a single supercontinent surrounded by single. Okay, remnants of the supercontinent make up much of the North American core and are composed of minerals that are more than 1 billion years old. Obviously, I need to do better about my copy and paste. During the early part of the expansion of the continental crust, a deep basin, okay, known as the
Ocoee.
Ocoee. Ocoee.
Ocoee.
Okay, no, you know
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's like the river down in Chattanooga. I've done some whitewater rafting
Mm.
on the Ocoee before.
Well, there you go. Known as the Ocoee Basin, formed on the margin of the supercontinent in what is now the Western Carolinas, Eastern Tennessee, and Northern Georgia. Seawater filled the basin,
Damn.
and over time it subsided, and a great thickness of sediment accumulated. So the sediments of the what did you call it?
Ocoee. Yeah.
Ocoee Basin now form the bedrock of the Great Smoky Unicoi
Okay.
and Platte Balsam Mountains. The layers in which these sediments were deposited on the ancient seafloor can still be seen in outcrops of the bedrock. And I don't know, you've seen it. I've seen like maybe TikToks or something where you can get really old. People found really old fossils, like ancient sea life fossils that look really cool from the mountains.
Oh, that's crazy. So I mean to
Like,
think like
like weird shells and shit.
Like just a stack of shells and sediment that eventually formed mountains.
Mm-hmm. The bedrock, right? Is that what it said? Yeah.
Yeah, bedrock.
The rocks of the Valley and Ridge province formed in a setting very different from that of the Ocoee Basin. For millions of years, a vast, shallow inland sea covered the area, which I did kind of see. Like the water was a lot more farther inland,
Yeah.
so it was cool watching the little video. Maybe you'll find it. Maybe you'll look it up one day.
So we're
Like see
saying,
the time lapse of everything moving.
yeah, but I mean, like there used to be a sea there.
Yeah.
That's kind of mind blowing to think about. What is now
Yeah.
North Carolina and Tennessee and
Mm-hmm.
Virginia. Wait, no. I I can't distinguish where do the Appalachian Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains coincide? 'Cause they're like in the same part of the country, right?
Are the Blue Ridge Mountains part of the Appalachian Mountains?
They might be. I don't know. I don't know if there's a distinguishment between the two.
Because I think it's like maybe the whole range is all that. I
Well,
don't know though, because like it's called the Great Smoky Mountains, but then you have the Unicoi and the Plot Balsam Mountains. I mean, they're all named different things, but it's still the Appalachian.
I've never heard of either of those two mountain ranges either. Of course, I've heard of the
No, I don't
Smokies,
know.
but
Right.
the Unicoi and the Plotted Bolfum Bofa, I haven't
Balsam?
heard. Balsam, that's it. Yeah, I said Bofa. That's a joke. Anyway, I've never heard of those mountain ranges, so
Yeah, I don't know where they are either.
isn't that a fun fact for this show?
we don't really know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, shells and other hard parts of ancient marine plants and animals accumulated to form limey deposits that are now limestone. So that's why there's so much limestone in that area
I was
too.
about to say there's limestone everywhere.
Yeah,
If there was a gold rush for limestone, this Knoxville would be San
Tennessee would be the
Francisco.
place. Mm-hmm, for
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
Okay, so then about 470 million years ago, the motion of the crustal plates changed and the continents began to move toward each other. So as the continental plates moved closer together, fragments of oceanic crust, islands, and other continental masses collided with the eastern margin of ancestral North America.
Shit.
Like there was okay. By this time, plants had appeared on land, followed by scorpions, insects, and amphibians. So those are like the first land
Okay.
animals.
Not amoebas with legs.
No, unless maybe that's what you can call a scorpion that or something.
When was Shrek's time on this earth? I figure this is probably when Shrek roamed the earth as well.
Shrek, like an ogre?
Yes.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen that documentary?
I'm aware of the films.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. Probably
Yeah.
around this time. What do you think
Yeah.
what do you think life was like 470 million years ago when the fucking continents are sliding around and bumping into each other?
With just scorpions and insects and I don't know, that sounds pretty chill, actually.
I man, I'm just picturing like they bump in together, they bump into each other, something breaks, and then scorpions and insects just come emerging out of the ground like a horror movie.
Ugh. It's like that part in King Kong where like they just all the fucking bugs start crawling around.
God, I hated that fucking part. That was
Like,
terrifying.
why is that just where all the bugs are?
Yeah, I don't know. Outspoken Owen chimes in. Shrek was a documentary. See, I knew
Okay.
I knew I wasn't crazy with that. Nonetheless, life as Pangea starts to split up, pretty crazy. We got some scorpions, we got some insects, we got some amphibians. Are we thinking these are like the insects from Peter Jackson's King Kong? at this time. Like they're
Yeah.
probably because of all because of all the oxygen. I'm sorry.
Oxygen.
The joke hit me before I could get it out of my mouth. It's like all this oxygen, there's just bugs with massive dicks roaming around.
As soon as you started laughing when you said oxygen, I was like, yeah, all these bugs and these they're big dicks.
You knew exactly where I was going with that. All right, so getting us back on track. The ocean continued to shrink.
Yeah, so about 270 million years ago, the continents that are North America and Africa collided. So that's what I wanted to watch for, because like Africa and North America collide, which I thought was interesting.
Well, it's because they're the closest. That's where we need to build the bridge through the ocean to drive.
And that, I mean, that's why like Africa has the oldest mountains, but then Appalachia is like kind of right behind it, because they actually hit each other. So
yeah, and I mean, like
that sort of makes sense.
If you zoom out, you know, and you put North America and Africa together, where the Appalachian Mountains are, it's like right there as a part of it.
Yeah, it'd be like a snug little fit, like a little hat.
Yeah, it's like a little hat. The Appalachian Mountains, I'm just saying, I think I've pronounced it like 8 different ways this show. The Appalachian Mountains are like Africa's sunglasses.
Like it's what?
Africa's sunglasses. You just take them off.
Sunglasses.
Just like that.
And put it on its head, like a little hat.
Yeah. Bingo.
So huge masses of rocks were pushed westward along the margin of North America and piled up to form the mountains that we now know as the Appalachians. So
that's it. That's how it happened.
Although a collision of continents caused the formation of the mountains, the present-day margin of North America is the result of a reversal in crustal plate movement. So after the continents collided, it started to like pull apart.
Yeah.
So about 240 million years ago, at the beginning of the age of the dinosaurs, a new ocean basin began to form. But that was present-day Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the
pulling
geography.
apart, and it's pulling apart from everything. So now we have like the Atlantic filling in,
seeping in, just seeping in around it. Yeah. Makes total sense. Makes perfect sense.
So while the Atlantic Ocean was still in its infancy, the Appalachians were already starting to erode.
That's crazy.
It's so fucking old. It's older than the Atlantic Ocean. It's older than trees. It's older than the first land animals.
Trying to comprehend this and put it within a context that my brain can understand is like when we did the episode on dark matter and trying to wrap my head around how dark matter works. Well, I'll bring up dark matter again later on in this episode, but
it's so big picture. It's hard to comprehend it.
I mean, it's pretty close to when you're talking about the formation of oceans and these mountains being here as the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean is fucking filling up. It's difficult to comprehend that. I mean, that's kind of, you're kind of messing with the fabric of our reality a little bit there, having to imagine planet Earth without the Atlantic Ocean. It was just a hole. It's just a bowl in the side of the Earth.
And think about like all the creatures in the Atlantic Ocean that are as old as they are and how creepy it is. Man.
So maybe some of these like deep sea monstrosities were once crawling the earth. They were fucking King Kong insects. And then the ocean just piled down on top of them. And they just woke up one morning and had gills. And now all of a sudden there's just, I mean, I think I'm scientifically explaining how King Kong and Godzilla could be legitimately, they're not just cryptids, but they are legit beings.
Yeah, I don't think King Kong, it doesn't seem like too much of a stretch if you just had some like little island that still had all this prehistoric stuff on it.
Yeah.
And you know what? The young creationists would probably agree that that's also a documentary.
Haven't heard from any of them. So, young creationists, come on, get in the chat with us here. We need to know. We have questions. So, that concludes our section on the formation of the Appalachian Mountains. But you've got a nice little section about the people and the culture of Appalachia.
Yeah. So Cherokee Indians were the main Native American group of the Southern Appalachian and Blue Ridge region.
Okay. There we go. They're in the same. They're in there, you know.
Yep. Yeah. It's exactly like that. But there are also Iroquois, Powhatan, Powhatan, and Shawnee people. The Appalachian Trail runs through a total of 22 Native Nations traditional territories, which that's a fucking lot.
Yeah. 22.
Mm-hmm. And I did want, like, I wanted to throw in the number that I found because it's just like, I don't know. There's a lot more people that have been here than people realize that have been here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also you have to think about each little one having its own culture that's spreading throughout Appalachia. Like I added this because, I mean, we'll get to it eventually, but just how many people have been in that region and how much could still be left behind culturally speaking.
It's interesting, and I don't know what this says about me, but my first thought was people always say that America's a melting pot as if that's like some relatively new thing, but this was happening years ago, decades ago.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that about Native Americans aren't just like one monolithic people.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think about.
So then followed by that, the people who settled the Appalachian area were Scotch-Irish settlers who were poor. They said poor, humble, and fiercely self-reliant with an innate distrust of government after decades of fighting the English and Catholics.
That sounds like quite the combination with the native people that were already settling there.
Yep. And then also by 1860, 10% of the population was Black, both free and enslaved. Elite whites and Cherokee people alike had Africans in enslavement in southern Appalachia, but the mountain landscape did not naturally lend itself to large plantations of the Deep South. So there wasn't as much slavery going on. So you had a lot of free slaves.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't just like mow down 100 acres of land and build a massive plantation and a big operation there on the side of a fucking mountain.
And we kind of talked about it when we talked about Gatlinburg, how they were anti-slavery, and they tried to say that they had one of the first papers or brochures that was anti-slavery. I don't really remember exactly what it was.
I vaguely
but they tried to
remember
lay
too.
claim to that anyway. And we were just talking about how now you have people in there with Confederate flags everywhere. It's like, no, this is not.
Yeah, it's not the.
This is not real
heritage.
Gatlinburg.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, it's not the heritage of that place that so many people think. I don't. It's been like 3 years since we did the Gatlinburg episode. I think it's one of our older ones.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And then, so this says, in fact, the majority of Appalachian people were not slaveholders. Folks in what became West Virginia split off and joined the Union after Virginia voted to join the Confederacy. So there was an active underground railroad that ran through Appalachia from Chattanooga north to Pennsylvania.
I mean, I would imagine that would fit because they've got a trail for it, you know?
Well,
the Appalachian
Trail. As
already
the Appalachian Trail is the underground railroad.
Yeah.
So
Chattanooga getting wrapped up into our history.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
That is pretty interesting. Yeah.
So all of that to really say, like, America's early pioneer era saw whites, blacks, and Indians all living close together in these mountains, and these are all people who fucking hate the government.
Yeah.
are independent, like distrustful of people. And so you just are going to get a lot of that with a cultural attitude,
Sure.
which I think you can still see quite a bit of.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. I haven't spent a lot of time in Appalachia, but I've spent enough time, I feel like, to get a pretty good read on the clientele, if you will. And it's a really interesting place. I mean, it is, it at times it does kind of feel like a world of its own.
Definitely. I mean, you have people living in the mountains who don't want to be involved with other people's shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
and a lot of
Mothman
that
lives
still,
there.
yep. So a lot of that still lives on in attitudes, accents, folk music, and folklore of the region.
Oh, this is where we're going to get into some of the fun stuff.
So part of that is leading into how much folklore there is and superstition in the Appalachian Mountains because, I mean, um, Native American Indians have, their own rich um, cultural tales and everything. And I know that the Scotch Irish are extremely superstitious people.
Yeah. Mhm. So,
Um,
well, what?
yeah, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I didn't have a whole lot because I know that there's a lot of weird cryptid stories and stuff that even stuff that was floating around on TikTok. Um, but I didn't have any specific stories to go into.
Yeah, the creepiest thing for me is that, well, it's not just the stories that come out of the regional culture here, but it's how seriously the locals take it. I mean, it is a general rule that if you hear something in the woods, you just ignore it. Like some being calling your name or sounding human or something like that, they tell you, like, no, you do not engage, like just
Mhm.
ignore it. And to me, I mean, to see people live like that, it's kind of harrowing in a way.
Yeah. I mean,
Harrowing, did I get that right?
I
I don't
think it's
know.
harrowing. I think
Okay,
you're right.
yeah, thank
I
you.
mean, I wouldn't say harrowing. I'm not sure I've heard too many people
Fair
say
enough.
that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, like the mimics, if you think you heard something, no, you didn't.
Yeah. Mhm. But there are TikToks that, I mean, admittedly, being a skeptic, could just be produced in a software system somewhere. But I mean, you see the stuff, the people on the trail, the stories that have been documented, stuff that we found like on Reddit whenever we do our annual Halloween episode on scary Reddit stories. Like there's so many documented encounters where it's just, it makes you believe like there's just the tiniest shred of truth to this stuff. Like, there's just something weird about this region, um, which brings me to bring up the concept of ley lines, which we've talked about
Oh
on this
yeah.
show plenty of time before, and dark matter. Like we might just not understand what the fuck is happening here.
Yeah, I mean, the place is so old.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about ancient Earth.
Mhm. Like even I don't know, like I haven't looked up where the ley lines are. I should have. Like I even thought about that too when I originally wrote this and then forgot. Is there like a map of ley lines that you can,
I
that
don't
you can
know. We
search up
could,
anyway?
let me see if I can Google it
Um
real quick.
but yeah, even if there's not ley lines, just the amount, like if people themselves leave energy in a place, for
Yeah.
example, if
Hmm.
something like that exists and happens, that's a lot of fucking people
Yeah.
with pretty strong
Wills.
stories
Oh, sorry. I
from
cut you
their
off.
own cultures. Like you have African stories, you have Scotch Irish, like the Celtics have a shit ton of stories. Like mimics sound a lot like fairy stuff. You
Yeah.
have Native American stories, which I don't know a ton about, but they've got some crazy ass shit. Like we've done Wendigo, we've done Skinwalker Ranch.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, these are like really hard nosed, hard living people too.
Yeah.
That, you know, I feel like, hey, it makes sense. Is like these people are going to stick around and try to claim the bodies of the innocent. I don't know. I don't know what the mimic's game is here.
Yeah, I
If
don't
it's like the
either.
Wendigo, it's going to eat me and try to feed itself.
Well, there's like changelings too with Celtic folklore, you know, like fairies are trying to steal human babies and exchange
Yeah.
it with one of their own babies. And
No, listen,
so, you know, if you hear stories about screaming babies, that could be a changeling story.
yeah. Well, tell you what, I can appreciate a good view from a mountaintop, but there ain't no view in the world that's going to have me talking to changelings.
Oh, that go out for if you hear screaming baby in the woods, you're not going out.
Fuck it. It's on its own.
I think that was even something that came up in that Hellier show. I think some guys were talking about how like when they were just trying to, and that was a story that I think originally started was supposed to be like the Hopkinsville goblins. They were
Yeah.
supposed to be trying to investigate that kind of stuff. But they were talking to some local guys, and I think they said, "Oh, people hear like crying babies at night."
Mm-mm. Sorry.
And
We're
then
just
there's
gonna have to
also
get some
like
new ones.
lights or floating lanterns is a common one, which also
This is
sounds like Will o' the Wisps, which
I
is
I don't know what this is. I saw this on the agenda and I was like, "Oh man, that's a new one to me."
Will o' the Wisps.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, have you ever seen Brave? Did you ever see that
I know
the the Disney movie?
the Jeff Hardy character that he did for a little bit in TNA wrestling. That was, I think its name was Willow, but that's all I know. No, I never watched Brave.
No, okay. Well, that's like that's just like a mainstream thing. I think it's got will anyway, they're just like little floating lights, you know, that are like trying to lead you out of an area or like a swamp usually or boggy area. That
Okay.
and it's the same thing. You should not follow them.
That was going to be my next question. Like, is it okay to follow these things, or are they like leading us to something a little more of ill intent?
Yeah, no, everything's trying to trick you. Don't follow that shit.
What is it about this place? Why is the land itself, the energy around this, trying to consume human life?
I don't know. It's really old. Maybe it hates humans.
Yeah, could
I
be.
can't really blame it.
Yeah, maybe it's the ghosts of the King Kong insects
Mm-hmm.
that have
Yeah,
come
they're
up.
like, I'm tired of these people being here.
Yeah, so we do have some cryptid stories. I know this region is a Bigfoot hotbed too, but any other fun cryptids you would like to mention here?
Yeah, the Wampus cat is
I don't know
something,
what
and I
that is. I've
think
heard it.
that's kind of attributed to maybe native stories. But I don't know. The thing that I saw said that that's maybe where it came from, but then somebody was like, no, I don't know. Anyway, a big cat. I think a big cat with like an extra set of legs.
Whoa, that's kind of cool, actually.
It is.
So it has 6
So
legs, and it's just this, like,
yeah,
is it long like cat dog with a
I think it's longer. Yeah, it's longer. It's just like I don't know. It could just be like a mountain lion.
mm, yeah. And if it has a prehistoric oxygenated penis, you might mistake it for another set of legs.
Yeah, two legs. That's really the penis and then the balls hanging nuts
Exactly. Exactly.
separately.
Do you have any of the specific Bigfoot stories from this region?
No,
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I don't want to call them generic, but I mean,
they're all over the place now. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like you can pick one out of a hat and you've got your
Hmm.
create your own Bigfoot story in the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh, you know what? I wonder if the Wampus cat could be like a saber-toothed tiger because they were around in that region.
Yeah, maybe it is.
That's why the predators are saber-tooth tigers because they were found in Middle Tennessee, I think.
Man, yeah, it could be it.
Or I don't know, what if there's dinosaurs around? I'm just saying, I went hiking on the Appalachian Trail before and I heard a weird sound. And that's all I know.
Why can you share that story with us for our listeners who might not have heard that?
Um, so it was like a 9-mile hike on the Appalachian Trail in the Smoky Mountains area. And I think I was on the way back and it was starting to get kind of dark. So I was a little worried about it because I didn't have any lights or anything.
Like
I
this is
was
going to
not,
turn into a devil's den situation.
well, like a night hike, and I was not prepared for that.
Okay.
But no, I just heard this weird sound and it wasn't far off. It was like right off the trail. And it was like I heard some movement in the trees and like this weird grunty sound. I mean, it could have just been a deer, honestly, but this came up in the conversation of us talking about like, weird stuff happens and we still tend to just come up with more reasonable explanations for what it could be. Like the skeptic goes first.
And people in the modern era don't believe in magic. They don't believe in spiritual stuff. So their brains tend to explain away things that they hear that they might not otherwise be able to explain. Yeah, for sure. Maybe it was a prehistoric deer. Maybe it was like a gigantic
prehistoric deer. I mean, it's a dinosaur, not a prehistoric deer. Yeah. Or Bigfoot. I don't know. No, not Bigfoot.
I don't. This could just be my disposition, my nature, if you will. But anytime I'm in that part of the country, I never really feel alone. It's a really interesting feeling place to just drive through the mountains. My wife and I, every now and then, we drive up to New Jersey to visit her family all the time, and there's been a couple of times that we've gotten off the highway and kind of taken the Blue Ridge. I guess it's the Blue Ridge Parkway. I don't remember. Yeah,
yeah.
Gone up through there. Gone down into Cherokee, North Carolina, taken the back roads through the mountains to Asheville. And there is something about the region that just at a spiritual level, I guess, just kind of feels alive. It's a really interesting place.
It is. Yeah. There's the energy there is very interesting. I mean, I don't know. Part of me would say like the more rational part is like, oh, instinctually people get a little weird around forests. Just sort of like instincts kicking in, like you feel like you're being watched, but like it's just because your awareness is heightened because, we spend a long time having to be aware of things that are out to kill us in the woods.
Yeah, for sure.
But like you can go into different woods and not feel like that.
Yeah.
So it definitely feels different up there, which is fun. I really like it. I like that feeling. I mean, that's how I felt all throughout Point Pleasant too. It has that same energy.
Yeah. I don't love that feeling, but you know that I've had different experiences in my life than you've had, and it makes me super nervous because I don't know what I'm gonna see or experience. So just like,
yeah. Well, that's exciting to me though.
No, it's not exciting to me.
But that's because I haven't seen or heard anything before, and yeah, it's a different story for you.
All right. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. We have reached the end of our show agenda.
Well, there's a tiny little thing that, so, also vengeful spirits that could have been kicked up with mining around, in the mountains. So this is where the cave cryptids or goblins would come from, like maybe the Hopkinsville goblins.
Snatch your wig.
Maybe they weren't aliens, maybe they're little cave goblins.
Man, that's crazy. I mean, it could be like Lord of the Rings, like there's entire civilizations in the mountains,
Well, and then people thought this also could have been originated from like native Indians seeing white people for the first time.
Mm.
Like, who are these pale bearded freaks?
Very
must
well.
be must be cave goblins.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there are mornings I wake up and look in the mirror and I'm like, yeah, I could be a fucking troll. I could be an ogre.
This is what, yeah, maybe this is Shrek territory, you know?
Yeah. Maybe I just got my my periods in history mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, you were way too early. Shrek
Mhm.
was actually a Scottish immigrant to Appalachia.
Had no idea the Shrek documentary was based in North Carolina. Here we
Yep.
are. Here we are. All right. Well, now we are at the end of the show agenda. Rooster, you got any parting thoughts before we get on out of here?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, your first live stream ever, if I'm not mistaken.
We did it.
Yeah, how do you feel about it?
I'm okay. We only had one person pop up, so it just felt like,
We've had more than one person pop up.
oh, I don't see shit then, and I like that. I'm fine.
You don't
with
see
my.
the number of live viewers that we have right next to the count of where we're live? It should be up in the top left corner.
I'm not looking at it.
Okay. All right. Well, we've had a few people pop in. And I think, as we get more accustomed to this, we might run this shit in prime time where more people
Are you
can
talking
tune
about
in.
up where the count, like the time count?
Yeah, there's a little eyeball thing with one person watching, or there's a number next to it that says 1.
I don't see that.
You don't? Okay, well maybe
Nope.
it's just me. So
I'm
there's
leaving that.
there's
Let's
one person
never
still
see it.
watching right now, and I'm guessing it's Outspoken Owen because he said we crushed
It looks like it. Yeah.
So, all right, Rooster. Well, remind our listeners of where they can find you on
Jesus.
social media.
At Sobro Rooster on Twitter, and then Rooster.chase on
you changed it. Yeah.
Instagram.
Rooster.chase on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's because I changed it I never remember it on Instagram anymore. But yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, I am at Stoney Keeley on Twitter, collectively at Sobros Network on all major social media platforms. You can check out all of our work at sobrosnetwork.com. All of our merch is up at sobrosshop.com. Support the team through Patreon and gain instant access to an exhaustive content library featuring over 300 items of premium content, including the new comedy podcast we just launched this week, LMA Owen. You want to go check that out. It's a lot of fun. $5 a month gets you instant access. Subscribe to Phone It In on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify, wherever you take in your shows. We are out in these internet streets, baby. We ain't hard to find. I forgot the rest of my spiel. So for the Cryptid Queen Rooster, I am Big Natural Stoney Keeley. And until next time, you stay classy, phoners.
Bye.